Leaders, real life leaders.
Hey guys, welcome back to today's episode. And we have a part 2 of our last episode. It's called Play It Full, 7 Steps to Unlock Your Extraordinary Career. If you missed last week's episode, you've got to log on and listen for this week. It's just so you can get caught back up. And we have Kapil Kulshreshtha, and he is here. He wrote an amazing book. And the part that we didn't discuss last week was the 5 levels of identity. So let's dive right in, Kapil, and you'll tell us exactly what is the 5 levels of identity.
Absolutely. So how do you make a permanent shift in life is really what the 5 levels is all about. And to understand it, let me tell you a parable, Chantel, or listeners, a parable, which is a story that I heard long back. It makes so much sense that I want to share this with people. So there was a little boy who did not have a right hand, and he wanted to learn martial art. So he went to a master and asked the master to teach him. The master said, "Yes, I'll do that." And after the initial physical fitness, the master taught him a technique that then he had to use to go to the competition. A month passed. The boy really mastered the technique, and he went back to the master and asked him, "What do I do? Like, is there anything else?" Master said, "No, just practice." Another month passed, and by this time, the boy is starting to get a little bit jealous of other children learning other techniques. And he's wondering, and his doubts are starting to creep in. Will I ever win it? Other people are learning so much. And he kept on going back to the master, and master kept on sending him back. And an year passed, and finally it was time for the competition. And much to everybody's surprise, the boy actually won the first round, and then the second, and the third. And finally, the boy ended up being the champion that year. He went to the master and asked the master, "Why did I win it?" And the master said, "Well, the only way to cut through that move that I taught you is for the opponent to grab your right hand. And because you don't have any, you won." Now, this story is so critical because a lot of us have uniqueness inside us. We really have the power inside us where we can actually make a big difference. What we tend to do is we create this need in our life to be measured by other people's feeling of success. The entire identity framework is really to cut through all that noise. It's to actually help you tap into the uniqueness which already is there. The core principle of that is that people are already complete. They do not need fixing. They just need to discover who they already are. The very first level of that is behavioral changes. Just to give an example, let's say somebody's an introvert. And if you're an introvert in a corporate setting, it can be a very daunting place because in meetings, the people talk and your ideas are presented by other people. And only if you're the leader in that team, only then maybe it's heard. And a lot of introvert, that's why I find it very daunting. So the big change, most of people, what they call a big change is the behavioral shift is going to be, let me talk in a meeting. And I prepare and I talk in a meeting. But that change is very elastic. Means in one meeting, I could talk. In another meeting, I may not be able to talk at all. That's level 1 with a 1 unit of output. The level 2 is emotional, which is 10 times better, which is feeling calm, doing meditation, really checking my breath and everything, and then going to the meeting and having actually no worries about people, but talking, emotionally feel something. That is much more powerful. But what happens? You have a loud, obnoxious person who basically keeps taking the credit away from you, and you again are not able to speak. That's a level 2 shift, which is emotional, which is still elastic. The level 1 and level 2 is how the world engages with us. Level 3 is when it starts getting very powerful, which is the belief level shift. Quite some time back, about 7-8 years back, my wife was working for one of the largest banks in Australia, and she was a project manager for a project which had CXO minus 1 level people engaging with her. And she was, as a massive introvert, it was completely daunting. She was fearful. And she said, oh, I don't know. My first meeting just completely blew up. What do I do? Maybe I should just go for a speaking class. Maybe I should just go to this. Maybe you should learn. And I was like, no, just think about this. You're in the room because you have a lot to contribute in the room. Those people, the CXL -1 level people who are coming in, they don't know what you know. They don't know the status. All you need to think about is what can you contribute? And a belief shift immediately happened that I have to contribute because I'm the only one. And she named every single meeting. It's 100 times more powerful than the belief level shift. Now, these 3 level shifts are conscious in nature. We can make them consciously, we can change ourselves. The other thing about belief is that as we are living through our life, like a little ball of ice, we keep gathering this dust and all of it. So we also end up having limited beliefs. We end up having subconscious biases against us, which are against ourselves. And that also hurts us. So these 3 levels are conscious. But everybody knows it, that the conscious brain is only 10% of who we are. Majority of it is subconscious. That's where the bottom 2 level comes in. The 4th level is paradigm, the system of thought, our psychology, our mindset. How do we do things? This is the very thing that people think with. So when people want to change things, the way they make a change is with this own psychology and with their paradigm. But what happens to this paradigm is, because it is being changed with the same paradigm with which they're thinking, that people stay in this cycle more and never really end up changing anything. But if they change their paradigm, which is the system of thought, belief, values, then the impact is 10,000 times more powerful. But the bottom layer, which is the critical layer, is the identity of who you are. And that is a million times more powerful. And just to give you an example, for 17 years, I was overweight. I tried to lose weight. I knew how to lose it, and I couldn't do it. Everybody knows how to lose weight. I couldn't do it. I tried the dieting, exercising. I couldn't do it. But then actually, literally an overnight shift. And I remember it was International Women's Day in 2017. And overnight, I asked different questions from my life. And what I ate that morning, next day morning, I ate this morning. My identity shifted in an instant. I lost 16 kg in 16 weeks and I never went back. This was 5 years back. It's an identity shift. Being a corporate person, getting into business without any background in family or anything, and from a very typical conservative Indian family, it was a big deal, but I did that. It was an identity shift of becoming a coach. And no matter what came in my way, I stayed for it. The identity shift is the most powerful change. I've seen hundreds of people completely shift their life just because they stopped measuring themselves by other people's definition of success, because they discovered who they were. And that changed their entire game in the way they approach their career, their life. And the whole principle of I can have it all stems from that shift. The way I want to also probably summarize this whole thing is that a rocket cannot go to space slowly. It has to go at a certain speed. A rocket cannot go to space with gasoline. If you're going to feed gasoline to a rocket and not a rocket fuel, it's not going to go up. It's going to probably burst in pieces. Identity shift is that fire that is already there. The ideas, the secrets which are already hidden under those millions of folds in your brain. That is what people gotta discover. And that's the biggest change people can go through.
So let's talk about the weight loss piece, because I don't know that you really explained what the shift was. So kind of break it down so people can understand, because I think a lot of people are always trying to lose weight. How much weight did you lose total?
So I lost 16 weeks and 16 kg. It's just a fat loss, but obviously I lost more because I gained muscle as well.
So 16 kg is actually like if you look at pounds, that's like 30 some pounds, right?
Yeah, probably 34, 30, yeah, probably 30 pounds. Yeah.
Okay. So
more.
What did you do differently, and what was the mental shift with that?
Cool. So to do this thing, I'll tell you what I was doing before. I had tried the 7 days diet. I tried the various dieting programs. I had had a nutritionist and everything. I tried everything. I couldn't do that. People taught me that we can have cheat days and everything. It just didn't happen. I remember International Women's Day to this in 2017 because it was a special day. That night, I was frustrated and I had gone and registered myself for a personal training program, which was not related to weight at all. And I thought, what's my biggest problem in life is that I don't think big. And I thought, what is the most frustrating thing for me was my weight. I was always self-conscious. And I'm not saying people need to, if they're conscious, they want to, then they need to. Otherwise, no. So it's not at all body shaming. I did not like it. So earlier I was looking for that how can I lose weight? But this time around, because I thought I need to think big, I thought I need to find out, can a 44-year-old man have six packs? That was the question I asked. So I came across an article on Quora, which talked about a journey of another person who had done. And it immediately broke my perspective. It was not the tactics and strategies, but more about if this 40-year-old guy could do it, I could do it. And that just changed my complete perspective. And then I asked this question, how is it? Why is it? What is it that I have to change? And I realized one thing very clearly, that was I always like this? No. What is it that is valuable to me? What is valuable to me is to lose my weight because I hate it. So I created a leverage on me. I said, what will happen if I lose weight? What will I look like? So I actually took a picture, my own, cut my face. And in that night, like 3:00, I was taking printout and, took a picture, stick it on that. I said, this is how I'm going to look like. I'm going to visualize. So you can imagine, kids are there sleeping and I'm in front of the mirror, imagining myself, visualizing myself. And I said, this is it. Next day, I started my exercise routine, my food routine, and I had 0 cheat days. And by the way, I used to be somebody for whom friends used to make fun of him, saying, if you put food in front of Kapil, he thinks that he's such a responsible guy that he thinks if he doesn't finish it, the world will come to an end. And that's one out of his sense of responsibility, he eats it. My mother-in-law was there at my home at that time, and you know how mother-in-laws can be. You cannot do it. You love food too much. My friend said, no, you will not do it. It's just going to be useless. And I stopped talking to these people about my weight. I became obsessed with that. I would talk to everybody about it because that's who I was. I had 0 cheat days. I just had 0 temptation because I know the only way to kill temptation is not to have it. And I just kept on going. People told me, you can't lose weight so fast, you will fall sick. None of it happened. And I had body shame, so I could not go to gym. So I would run 3 days a week and I would just be completely out of breath. I had never run in my life before that. I would do body weight exercises 3 days a week, run 3 days a week. And I kept on doing it. And I'm not somebody, by the way, who had a massive willpower or something. I just knew this is how I'm going to look out. My weight every single day. Above all, I knew already this is who I am. This is who I am. My identity shifted at that time. Identity shift happened before. And then I used the tactics and strategies about the diet, about the exercising, about the visualization and affirmation and everything, and checking my weight every day. I threw away junk from my home. And I was like, if I can't have it, my girls can't have it because it is junk any place. So change surroundings, change my mindset, became obsessed, talked everybody about it, declared in the world that this is the journey I'm on. And it happened.
And now a word from our sponsor, Canzel Realty. Run your business your way, only at Canzel Realty. You can have all the freedom with none of the standard real estate red tape. If you're an agent, you get to run the show however you want and be your own boss. If you want to launch a team, you don't have to jump through all the hurdles and holdups. From day one, you'll have tons of tools and perks to offer your team. Powerful real estate tech like KV Core, Brokerman, and Skyslope. If you want to be your own brokerage or already have your own brokerage, that's not a problem either. You'll still get to run it however you want. All Canzel requires is a small Powered by Canzel logo next to yours. You can be the broker, you can be the manager, and you get to determine splits. You get all the tech, admin support, ownership stock, and revenue share, but most importantly, all the freedom, all the time, only at Canzel Realty.
So let's go back to the levels of identity. So I think you did level 1, level 2. Just repeat them back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just so
So
we
now,
understand it.
sure. And level one is emotional. Level one is behavioral, superficial. It has 1 unit of impact. Level two is emotional. It has 10 units of impact. Feeling it. Level three is believe, what I believe in, and not faking it, but actually believing it. First three levels are conscious. Level four is subconscious, which is our 90% mind, is paradigm, the system of belief, system of thought, system of value, the psychology. Level five is identity, which is who I am, which is a million times more powerful. So behavioral, emotional, belief, paradigm, and identity.
So, if you were going to give someone some advice on, give me an example of someone that you saw like their identity was here and they kind of followed these steps and they changed their identity. Make it really practical for us.
Definitely. So there was this guy who was one of the youngest CIO of a 40,000 people company in India. At a very young age of 33, he was a CIO, which is pretty cool. Like 40,000 people company, large company, great. And at around 44, he ended up joining one of the very large company, their global business as a group CIO. But then he started having conflict with them. He started having like worries about what is the then happening in my life. I don't like it. His company was bought over 51% of the 49% of the share was sold to another company, and he was really not happy about it. He thought that what I want to be is a CEO of a company. And he came to and he started working with me, and he went through a journey of that clarity about what he needs to do. So in the beginning, the focus was on behavior and emotion, but we didn't do that. We straight away, the very first week, we focused on the negative biases that he had against him. Now, you would think about it, if somebody is very successful, they won't have subconscious beliefs, subconscious biases or limiting beliefs, but we all do. He had certain limiting beliefs about himself, about you can't have it all, about perfection being good, about the expectation that people have from the world. So that's the first thing we attacked. We immediately took and crushed it and removed it. So his entire belief system shifted at that time in terms of really being able to focus on what has actually brought him. That's the first thing.
Hold on. I want to stop right there because I think that the subconscious limiting beliefs is the biggest thing that hold all of us back.
Yes.
And, if you guys haven't heard that term before, it really is the unconscious thoughts that act as kind of a defense mechanism you think it avoids possible negative emotions. So you kind of do it because you're trying to protect yourself. But in essence, they are the things that actually hold you back. So these are like triggered that you may have suffered in the past, and then they kind of come back up. So what were some of his limiting beliefs that that kind of got in his way?
So for him, one of the biggest one was that he's lucky. And it's very logical. It's very logical that he'll think he was lucky. He was a hard worker, everything was phenomenal. But then, I've seen examples of life of people who, just because they took time in getting to a great college, they start thinking they're not intelligent. Even if they top the university, the belief does not go away. It becomes a defense mechanism, as you rightly pointed out. So for him, this was the biggest thing. And the moment he got rid of it, he actually saw that what was the impact of that? What was that? What were some hidden gems inside him? I want to add to what you said. What has happened? Why do we have these limiting beliefs? If you take an example of a snowball, beautiful, shiny, little ball of pebble, and it's rolling downhill, which is what who we are. All of us roll downhill. But what happens is, along with the snow that it gathers up, it also starts gathering some dust and concrete and stuff that people have thrown around. And we start believing it because it works for us, because it just creates like, oh yeah, sure, it will work. And it becomes like, this must be true about me. And we believe in it so much that we end up creating reality in our life to match that belief. Getting rid of it is super critical because no matter how big dreams somebody has, if they're not able to let go of those subconscious beliefs, the limiting thoughts they've got, they will never fly because the chains will always hold them back. So that's the very first thing that we did with him in a week one.
Mm. So give us some examples. Let's say that you have seen kind of like, let's say the top 3
Yeah.
limiting beliefs that you've seen. And I'll give you one of them. I'll give you one that I've seen in people. This is not one of mine, but I've seen it in other people where they say something like, I need my colleagues to love me or to like me in order to feel valued or loved. And I need to get the approval of my colleagues in order to feel loved. And so with that, I feel like, if you're constantly seeking the approval of others to like you, and, you're like, okay, well, I want them to like me and I want them to like me, it actually can cause a great deal of stress to the team, because if you want everyone to like you all the time and you never want to stand up, then you're not going to ever be a leader that people can follow, because there's tons of times that people don't like the decision I make on a lot of things, but I'm making the right decision and it's not based on whether you are going to like me or not. So do you think that is a limiting belief maybe?
Yeah, definitely. It's also one of the biggest patterns. In fact, that was the third step as well, which is it was my biggest pattern in life that I needed approval. One of the things I want to add is that people are looking at approval. They're looking at all aspects of life. They're not just going to focus only on one part of it, but everything. So you're absolutely right. People have the belief that, yeah, I need approval from others, and without or I will never get approval, and they'll create reality where they will not get approval. The top words I've seen is one, the worst one. Everybody has it, that I'm not enough. I'm not enough. It just holds them back like anything. Second one, I will not be loved. A lot of people, they say, hey, what has that got to do with career? Everything. If you feel you'll not be loved, then you're going to constantly seek validation. So this is a big one. That's the second one that I've seen. And third one, very, very illogical, and which I've seen in a lot of people, is that I get lucky in life. And I'm surprised because I've done this over 500 people, walked them through this kind of a journey with me, and it just keeps repeating. I'm not enough. I'm now loved, and I get lucky. One of the things about limiting beliefs are that limiting beliefs are at a subconscious level, so they're very simple. They're not intellectual. Somebody they intellectually argue, say, no, I don't worry about people pleasing. But then they will act like that because they believe that that's right. If we believe us something, we will fight the nail to protect. That's the very first step that people have to go through to get that. And that's what, with this person, that's what happened.
I think one of the things that has been a limiting belief for me is, we've hired a few leaders that seemed good on paper. And, we have some good medium level players. But I feel like anyone that we've hired in a higher leadership role, we've got some good ones, but then we've hired some that just, didn't perform and didn't do what they needed to. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, we'll give them a chance, but there's something inside my head that's like, this guy's probably not going to be all that he's cracked up to be, because we've had some high level leaders that seem like they were so good. And then reason or another, they just didn't perform. So what would you say to someone like me? Because I'm sure there's others out there that would say that is a limiting belief that they have. What would you do to change my self on that?
Yeah, great example. And thank you for being so vulnerable, Chantel. Like, in this kind of things, it's amazing to see that. Look, here's the thing. A coach, anybody cannot change somebody's mind unless they have leverage. So first thing that I will do is basically, and we can go through the process, it'll take 10, 15 minutes. But the first thing I'll do is to just create that doubt in your mind that maybe, just maybe maybe there's a chance that you have got that perception in your mind and maybe it's not a reality. The moment, and then in that back and forth exercise, I'll understand that what is that angle that has to come in, which you will say, yeah, maybe there's a chance. My goal of those questions is going to be, maybe there's a chance that you could that you have a limiting thoughts on that. Maybe you have, or maybe even this, that nobody can be as good as I, or maybe there's something else. Maybe it's that other people cannot be as committed. These are the limiting beliefs. So we'll get to that part. Then I have a leverage. And once I have a leverage, can you say, yeah, maybe. Then I'm going to talk about the consequences of holding on to this belief, which means that hiring these people, spending a lot of time, money, energy, and then letting them go, or holding on to them and losing a lot of money in the process, or losing a lot of pain, like, because letting people go is a very painful exercise for leaders and entrepreneurs. So, so once I have the consequences already set in, then I'll ask you, do you want to change? And when you do, then we'll basically remove all the pillars which are holding the chain, and then install a new empowering belief, which could be, I think, that I'm going to find people better than me, and I'm amazing people. I can read people very well, or anything, something just very simple, not directly related to that outcome, something which is very fundamental. And the moment that comes in cheat, the way it will be very different. And then you will suddenly find surprises that people only give you their best. But it's a process that you go through to get to that place, and the place that immediately is something which is opposite of that, and then help you relate to your own life. Because I'm sure you also hired some amazing people who you did not know, but they were like exceptional, and then they change the way things happen around you. And you were like, literally fell in love with those people about, I want everybody to own XYZ. I want myself to be able to grow this person. So then it gets validated that you're not building anything new. You always have that empowering thoughts inside. And that changes the complete game. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. I love it. So
Beautiful.
why don't you talk one more time about, for those different levels, so level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5,
Yeah.
what do you need to do to get to the best version of yourself with that? To get there?
Absolutely. I think best tip I could give you, and more than you, I could give to the listeners, is that realize that no matter how big your dreams are, your constraints are real, they're present, they're immediate, and they will hold you back. There's no point in doing affirmation and having a talk or getting motivated. You got to do stuff. Unless you let go of those constraints, you can't fly. You have to let go of it. And for that, you have to get into the place where you take cumulative release. Then you have to remove the behavioral and emotional pattern from your life, because that's how the people deal with you. I could be the best person for all the conversation, but in the last 5 minutes of this conversation, if I do something weird, people are going to remember that. And then you start looking at your paradigm and understand what is that is the first thing which has held me back. What my direct talk was actually about that one paradigm. You do that, you change the gun, and then you start going towards the point. What is my building block? How can I get certainty in my life that there is abundance no matter what happens? And imagine how would they walk if people had the certainty that abundance is going to be there no matter what. How will they deal with people? How will they engage with everybody? And then it comes to plan. Then it comes to organization. So if they go through a step-by-step process of taking care of belief, taking care of the behavioral pattern, taking care of the worst change in their life by letting go of something, one unique instance in past, putting the building blocks in place, and then getting clarity, that's when they can have the courage to move forward, which is built on top of their habits, which is built on top of their newfound values. It's innate strength inside them. But above all, the standard they will set in their own life. That's how I've done it. That's my guys have done it, how I've done it. And that's what I would keep projecting out as a message all through my life.
I love that. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. Tell listeners where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Perfect. Look, people can get to me through my LinkedIn, which is up 20,000 followers, and I'm just keep connecting with people, and I accept all connections. So instead of just following, just connect with me, and I will, till the time I reach 30K, I can still connect. So I would love to do that. That's one way to do it. And you can easily find it from Kapil Kulshreshtha, Playful. If you search Playful, you will find me. That's one way to do that. And second is that I would love to give people some more additional tips, which is going to be about confidence boost. And if you just hold on a second, I'm just going to give you that link as well, Chantel. So if they go to playful.com/boost your confidence, playful.com/boost your confidence, they're going to get access to our training, because that has made a huge difference to my client. It's a free training completely, and they can just access it right away if they want it.
Love it. Thank you so much. And you guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a few. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Life Leadership. If you'd like to get the show notes or access more resources, log on to reallifeleaders.com/podcast to get the show notes from this episode and any other resources we might have mentioned. And also, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to review or rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts to help spread the word. And if you have any leadership questions you want answered, email podcast@reallifeleaders.com.